This is WICR.
Perfect.
Hello, Iona College. Welcome back to the WICR Morning Show. We are rolling along, still getting ready for our interview coming up later in the show. But as I just alluded to, we're going to move into a little bit of world news, drop the hammer on ISIS a little bit, maybe talk about some more positive things. But Ken, you're kind of our political correspondent on this show. You're pretty well versed in that area.
Congratulations.
Is that a promotion?
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
A little bit.
I'm going to need a John Sterling home run call for myself.
Oh, you can't go wrong with any John Sterling home run calls.
Like Joe, you've got to help me out there.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I mean the Yankees just don't do too much
My
of that.
My favorite is Gardy Goes Yardy.
Gardy Goes Yardy.
Sorry.
I don't know. The Grandy man was my favorite. You know, when Grandy was still belting out home runs.
Still not doing much.
No, I mean the Mets.
The Grandy man cannot, my friend. He cannot.
Well, I mean that's about the worst ballpark for Curtis Granderson you could possibly get.
He's in that cavernous City Field across town, so that's not helping him too much.
No. But we're talking about more important things here. We've got ISIS to deal with.
There's something more important than
Curtis Granderson.
Than the number of home runs Curtis Granderson hits.
Mets baseball or world political affairs? I mean,
both a disaster.
Yeah, exactly. We go into this. I mean, you pick up the paper and we've really covered ISIS very closely. I mean, Ken and Spring, when they've been on, they've talked a lot about it. I've talked a lot about it when I've been on. But Ken, I mean, you look at this, and every morning, I mean, now you see this past weekend another beheading from this group. The more I look at it, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of opening up the paper, going on Yahoo.com, and seeing there's been a new beheading. I'm tired of it. I want it to stop. I want action now. What's taking long?
You sound like a little bit of a whiner.
A little bit of a... Okay.
A little bit. I understand, though. I'm with you. We're all with you. But you're whining a little bit. And it's okay. You deserve to whine. We get it. Now, the thing is obviously Wednesday, President Obama gave his speech on how they plan on degrading and defeating ISIS. It's a bigger group than originally anticipated, and the scary thing about it is that it was so radical that it was denounced by Al Qaeda, which is scary to think about.
That is terrifying.
So it's not as easy as let's blow up ISIS, because they don't have like a building with the word ISIS on it where they all hang out in the middle of the day. They're kind of all over the place, and you need to be careful what you do because you don't want to push anybody else's buttons. So it's going to be a world affair. It's not going to be the United States on its lonesome going in looking for weapons of mass destruction again. But it's going to have to be a world affair where everybody kind of gets on their horse and rides into battle together.
I think it's a good point because, I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week. I mean, the battlefield has shifted so greatly. I mean, the days of going into battle against two nations, waving their flags with one another is over. We fight against an enemy that has no nation, that has no traditional barriers or lines. They don't wear uniforms. They hide within other innocent people, and it's just made warfare in the coming ages just so much more difficult to conduct, especially for us. I mean, you look at our success in military terms since Vietnam, and it hasn't proved very successful. And I think you just look at these new groups, and it's really just a scary time.
Vote for Joe Archino, Congress, 1st District.
Congress 1st District, I could do it.
Yeah, I got you.
Maybe throw a little sports in there. Gotta have the sports in there.
Sports congressman.
But Ian, I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, you're pretty well versed in this stuff too. Obviously, like me, you're more of a sports guy first and foremost. But I'm curious to get what are your takes on this whole thing.
Well, I think that the level of success that we're going to have against ISIS is going to determine on the amount of aid and other countries aiding us is going to be the key. Because, I mean, we saw what happened with Iraq and Afghanistan when we tried to go in alone and be the world police. That obviously didn't work out too well. So I think that it's really going to be a question of how many people realize how much of a threat ISIS is and who's willing to step up with us and go to bat and combat these extremists.
Now, I think what the most troubling thing is about the entire situation is you look 8 years in the past, almost to the exact day when President Bush said that he did not have an escape plan from the Middle East. And basically, President Obama said the same thing. They said, "What's the end game? When's it over? What's the timetable?" And he said that there is none. And it's easy to say for a man who's on his way out of office, but for a country that's still got to hang around when he's done, it's another blow of war.
And I think that's a great point. I mean, you're going to hear me keep referencing things like Vietnam, but there's so much in the past that tells us about the future. I mean, you look to the past and there's so many parallels between what's happened then and what's happening now. And I think you see Vietnam, you look at Iraq, we didn't have escape plans there. And the wars just kept dragging on and on and on and on, and we lost way too many men, we lost way too many resources, and I think that's why very important, like Ken said, is you've got to have a crystal clear plan here. What's the end goal? When is this thing going to end? And we were talking a little bit about getting help as well. I was just reading in the paper the most current beheading was of a British citizen, and I believe that Britain was holding emergency meetings with the military and everything like that. So it seems like they may be on board. I just read that Australia is committing 600 military personnel, I believe 10 aircraft, so they're going to be on board as well. And I think like Ken, you were saying, is we need help. The U.S. can't be the world police. I think it's very important we get more people on board.
Yeah, and I think what's going to end up happening, and the plan to deflate and defeat, or degrade and defeat ISIS. I think what you're going to see is ISIS kind of play itself out. I think it's going to become a kind of a taboo thing. ISIS themselves is not what the Islamic religion stands for, and other people within Islam know that, and they are also denouncing this group. So it's an entire world affair of people saying this is wrong, and they're going to have no way to beat that. Right? There's no better army than numbers. Right? That's the most truth of all is if Ian brings 400 people to my dorm room and I have 4, well, I'm probably going to lose.
Yeah.
Even if mine are the biggest and strongest and smartest, Ian's going to beat me. Right? That's why ants are so powerful in the animal kingdom, because they just all come get you right out of the thing. They just all... I hate bugs. Anyway. But that's what I'm trying to say, is you can compare the rest of the world to the ants against the ISIS, which is not an entire swarm of ants, and it's something that can be defeated with power and togetherness.
And the power of the ants, folks. Power of the ants on the morning show. That was a very good discussion here, talking a bit of world affairs. We are going to move into getting set for our interview. By the time you join us, we will be set. We will have our interview on. So thank you for tuning in, and stay with us for our interview with Yvonne Wanger from the Baltimore Sun.